To kick things off, my name is Michael Lee. I'm the co-founder of the Creator Crypto magazine and co-founder of the urban development crowdfunding platform Building Blocks on blockchain. And I'm excited to start off today's conferences with the panel Empowering the Artists, looking at emerging technologies and the effect it has on the art industry, contemporary practice, and so forth. And we have quite a diverse panel today. To my right is Deborah Gunn, art advisor to the Faurschou Foundation. To my left is Kate Vasilieva of the Vass Gallery, the founder and director. And all the way to the left is Remy-Toledo of the Hyphen Hub, nonprofit organization here in New York City. And I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves better than I just did to get an in-depth look at the specific part of the industry they're involved in, and then we can start off the discussion. So I'll start with Deborah. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you found yourself here today?
Yeah, so I work for the Faurschou Foundation, which is based in Copenhagen, and we have also a space in Beijing, and we're opening a space here in Greenpoint in the fall. And we do exhibitions and catalogs, and we also exhibit at the Biennale, every edition of the Biennale. And, but we have a related company called Cora Contemporary that we, through which... We have a related company called Cora Contemporary, through which we commission artists to create virtual reality artworks. And so that's how our connection here today is to talk about what we're doing in that space.
My name is Kate Vasilieva. I'm founder and director of Vass Galerie, which is based in Zurich, Switzerland. And the focus lies within photography and generative art. And we've been hosting various exhibitions on, previous ones was a very first one on blockchain, showcasing such protagonists of of this movement, like CryptoPunks, by a talented duo, John Watkinson and Matt Hall, who will be also at the panel later today, as well as Kevin Abosch, who is also going to be at the panel later today, with his two projects, one in a collaboration with IYY and another one when he tokenized himself. Very interesting project, I'm a Coin. The next show that we are doing and I'm working right now is on artificial intelligence, generative art. It will be a very historical show because it's going to be highlighting all the 70 years of a retrospective of generative art as a movement, showcasing pioneers from back to 60s to contemporary art, and we will have more than 29 artists on the show.
Remy-Toledo. I'm based in New York, born in Colombia. I have a non-profit organization called Hyphen Hub, which is hyphen means in between, but it's also the link that connects. We are a hub because we also have a global network of curators, artists, creators that are working all at the intersection of art and emerging technologies. I work with also as curator for some festivals, like currently the Electronic Arts Festival in Colombia called Festival de la Imagen, Festival of the Image. But it goes more than image, it's everything encompassing electronic music nights to biotech and academic talks and exhibitions. So, and also I've been curator of the Liverpool Biennial 2010. I worked with art fairs. I was the first person to create a new media lounge for an art fair. It was Art Miami in 2008. We had about 2,000 space tent where I invited 10 museums from around the world to present their electronic or digital collections, and also some of them from private collectors like Margolis or Ella Cisneros.
To hop right into it, in accordance to the title of the talk, Emerging Technologies, what in the last couple years has been the standout in terms of innovation that artists are beginning to use, or you're starting to see in your organizations that are becoming more mainstream or more popular? And we've seen a lot of it across this conference thus far in terms of projection art, AR, VR, generative art, blockchain. What has really stuck with you in the past couple of years, especially entering new media and new technologies?
Well, I'm always scavenging for emerging technologies because So I'm always trying to figure out how these new things are going to be used by artists. So, I mean, still, I mean, the new trend is definitely AI, but it's kind of like one of those things as is also VR and AR. But those are trends, like what the media tell us, this is the new thing that you should be looking at. This is what's going to be really big. But also you look at some of these, how do you say, prognostics of how media has changed. There are these, you see there are many things that were like, everybody thought about it, invested a lot of money into it, and then goes down the investment. So I'm very wearable about, very, how do you say, wearable, very wary about this, wary about these new technologies and how really it's going to explode and change and everybody's going to become rich. So I don't look at it from that sense, but it's more about intellectual curiosity, because always artists are some of the most amazing people that could really take something and break it apart and create something that was totally unintentionally created for. And then voila, then it creates a new style, a new movement, and new ways to show what it was intended for commercial purposes. So yeah, so let's see what's going to happen with AI, but I'm still pretty skeptic about, you know, like that really is going to kick out the artists from the throne. That's not, it's still to be seen.
I think I should be more on the defendant side of AI, knowing that I work with the artists who are dealing with this on everyday basis, and some of them, they are spending their lifetime, you know, generating or using different algorithms to generate an artwork. I definitely disagree that, you know, we are kind of losing an artist behind the AI. I can quote definitely, for example, Kevin Abosch, who is here in the room and who can confirm that, for example, on his artwork, which all of you can see downstairs on the nail, which has been generated by algorithm Gunn on 200 painted nails of photographs made by Kevin. He said that it's actually 130% of his work rather than of Kevin Abosch, rather than just 100% of his work, because it was also AI learning the artist, you know, so this additional 30% goes on top. Please correct me if I'm quoting you incorrectly. So I think, you know, you're not losing really an artistic expression. I think technology has been always for all the years, for the last centuries, as soon as the technology develops, it's been used by the artist and picked up by the artist. And blockchain, for example, or AI. AI is not a new thing. You know, the pioneers of the movement started to do something in 60s, you know. If you look at the history of art, you know, we already have, as soon as the IBM machine was introduced in 60s, you know, there were many movements in Italian kinetic art as well. You know, there are many Italian artists who also picked up and was starting using computer as a help to use it as an artistic expression. You know, so I think now it's a little bit misunderstood that AI is a new movement. No, it's not a new movement. It's just with a more advanced technology, there are more possibilities for the artists to express themselves.
Yeah. I didn't say that these technologies were going to throw the artist on the throne. I just saying the artist is always gonna be there, because it's first is the artists use these as tools to express themselves and actually help us. I just last week, for example, I was at Bell Labs, and I was and they showed me these new piece by a beatbox artist, and he interacting with an AI piece, and the AI basically learned his patterns, his singing, everything, and then started talking with him. And by the end of the performance, it was like a complete collaboration almost. So it was very, very magical actually to witness that. And I saw a very good potential, because, you know, but as everything, there is always the dark side of things where could go, you know.
Technology is really kind of at the beginning, and if there's one thing we can say about artists is they're opportunistic. and they find a way to use anything that they can to express their vision. And that's what has really struck me in learning about this space and how artists are using VR, is just how wildly divergent the results are from this technology is allowing these, it's not all the same. They're using it in very different ways. We were asked to present some of our works in San Francisco at an art fair, and we had three very different works, and it was so interesting to me how different the experience was for the viewer for these different, we had Paul McCarthy, which was an immersive VR. We had Nikita Shalani, which is more of a meditative, you sort of following along. As with the Paul McCarthy, you're sort of interacting. And then there was a local artist from San Francisco who'd done a piece that she actually guided you through the piece. So you were interacting with the artist. So I think what's so exciting about this space is we don't know where it's going to go. The technology is just getting better and better, and will just allow artists to do more and more of what they do already, but in just new and different ways. And the other thing that has surprised me about this is how you would think that it would be such a solitary experience, but actually it's not always so. People end up, what I've noticed is after people watch a VR, they may, and also there are new technologies that are allowing people to see things together at the same time, but I see so much discussion around the VR pieces after people have viewed them. So I think it's just incredibly exciting what's happening.
I've seen many statements like artists should become coders, for example, in this new age. But I'm also seeing, for example, in this room, there are people who work on the super rare team or the additional team. And as these become more accessible, you see a lot more artists stepping into the doorway of blockchain art or AR, VR art. Do you see that relationship changing between, the basement coders and the studio solo artists? Is that starting to break down and create a new kind of community?
Right now, Cora Contemporary, we support the artists, so we're the production side of it. So if an artist has a vision, we support that vision and help them achieve that. But I have noticed that, like the local San Francisco artist that I was talking about before, she just taught herself how to use the tools.
Before, the artists were more like a loner in the studio, and one thing about these technologies is that they become almost like big productions, and you cannot be an expert at everything, the coding or sound. So many of the artists that I work with, they have many other collaborators that they work with, and it's just and they have to get like the best person that is in sound to create this thing out there. The best one that could do this video, special sort of effects or something. So it becomes a team, and and like as before, for example, I was talking recently with Barbara London, was from MoMA, and she was talking about David Bowie, talking about collaboration now, and she was saying, well, David Bowie never collaborated with anyone. He hired people, and he said, yes, but it's not the case now. Now people are collaborating, and they actually give credits on the thing, sound production, video, this, software, this person. So we are in this age where because of technology lets itself to be more in this aspect of collaboration, what it is.
I also see a lot of, actually, it's been an interesting change because, now there are lots of anonymous group of artists doing some projects. For example, Distributed Gallery, who it's a group of anonymous artists, 3 artists actually to be precise, they don't like to self-PR themselves individually, they never name their names, they call themselves as a distributed gallery, and their artwork is an absolute pure collaboration of free. You also see many duos collaborating, one is more kind of on a tech side and another one is more on artistic side. So they can benefit from one another background and special skills. I also see 2 artists collaborating. Again, I'll give you an example of Kevin and IYY. For example, when both of them wanted to to use, for example, blockchain as an artistic expression for their conceptual work, Obviously, some brings more technical knowledge, some probably, the whole idea, and the whole doer, and both of them gets the credit, So there are different examples for the ones who are openly collaborating and they are not afraid and they have absolutely healthy kind of pride, of standing for what they're doing. And the other ones, they prefer to be anonymous, but still, it's like a group work, teamwork.
I want to stay on that specific exhibition for just a moment, because I know that when you opened, the exact name was Priceless?
Perfect and Priceless.
Perfect and Priceless, the group exhibition in Zurich, because it was dealing with blockchain technology, and I believe at your gallery, it was the first time you had done a show that was focusing on these new technologies, including blockchain and those projects.
I think it was the first one so technically complicated, yes,
Right.
Definitely.
So I noticed in the programming you had multiple events. You had, I think, 3 or 4 public events with talks and discussions, and I wanted to kind of touch upon the educational aspect. When you're bringing in something so new that even artists don't quite understand yet, and then you're trying to bring it to the public or the public or group of collectors, what is that process like?
I think for me as a gallerist, it's the main thing is actually the educational part. Whatever we are doing, I'm always trying to educate the new generation of collectors, and for me, it's the most important that it's open for as more people as possible, that more audience can benefit from looking and learning. And through this particular for this particular exhibition on Perfect and Priceless, we had partnered up with 5 or 6 major companies. The ones we are also in crypto mining, for example, one of the leaders of in Switzerland with the Crypto Valley Association, who've been doing educational sessions on the Bitcoin and on the cryptocurrencies. We had several speakers at the panel talking about the tokenization in art and the tokenization in different businesses, There were a minimum 10 sessions, I think, throughout the whole exhibition, where we had a very interesting speakers and leaders of the industry in Switzerland talking about it. We also had artists coming and participating in the talks and describing also how they use blockchain, for example, as an artistic expression. I also publish every quarter an editorial, which is focusing usually on highlighting their previous exhibition and also history of the movement, for example. If it's a photography, it's a photography. If it's a blockchain, it's a blockchain. If it's artificial intelligence or generative art, for example, for next catalog, we are going to have multiple articles also which I use from various artists. For example, David Yan, who has written a beautiful essay, A Little AI. We are going to also highlight, because it's people learn from the first, basically from the creators, and me as a gallerist, I can only support and explain how you can also purchase the work, and how you can collect, why do you have to collect, and probably, how to focus your collection.
I want to expand that educational question to Deborah and Asher as well. When you are thinking about bringing these new technologies to the limelight, especially on, let's say, a scale of a foundation that has multiple locations around the world, what's the thought process behind that, and what's the kind of educational slant on bringing them in?
I would say that we've, not that that's not been important, but it hasn't been so necessary with the VR works, because I think people are familiar to some degree with VR. So for what we've been doing so far with VR, we haven't really had so much of an issue in terms of the education portion of it, because the works are presented, and so that's not been so much of our focus.
Now that we've kind of covered the aspects of what your organizations are tackling, let's bring it back down to the individual artist or the practitioner group. Within this respective technologies you guys are focusing on now, how can artists start to dive in, or what are the programs or the approaches you're taking as organizations to bring in more artists to the table with what seems to be an exponentially more complicated process of new media and technologies and all these different aspects and collaborative elements and anonymity? How are artists starting to engage you with these specific technologies? Is that with you, Kate? Deborah. Deborah, can I start with you?
So for us, I think the process, it doesn't always unfold the same way, but so we work a lot with artists who are already established, young artists, but already established practice, and sometimes we approach them, sometimes they approach us about creating a work together. So for us, because we're small and we're doing, the process is sort of, doing one and then another, we're learning as we're going as well. So I think the outreach goes both ways for us. And because the artists are established artists, they already have their practice. For them, this is a really exciting way to extend what they're already doing and see their work in a new way.
I don't know. For me, I work with all type of artists. Some of them from our community are really at the top of their career, and other ones, most of them are mid-career, and there are also a few emerging ones that I find just very interesting. So usually I work with artists in a very organic and long engagement with them. So before I decide to showcase them, or even and then to include them in my website as part of the community, because I've gotten to know their work, where they are coming from, what they are thinking to develop this. Also, and so there has been some that I mentioned I've been in many biennials and stuff, and the other ones that are never shown anywhere, but I'm very fascinated how they are treating this approach to technology. And one of the ones, like a Hyphen Hub, is we serve as this bridge, also to instigate their mind and the processes of working. So many times I tell them, I know what they are doing, I know where they want to go, but there's something blocking them. So I say, I know somebody else who could help you with this, develop this code, who has this 3D printing machine that you could do that thing that you need. And then we create these collaborations, and some of them end up, as I mentioned, in a theater performance, so the ones end up in a live performance that I create, or a festival, a biennial. I'm creating actually a festival. I have a series called Visions of the Future, which I have presented several times here in New York, at La Mama Theater. Now we are going to be doing a series in the fall, Roulette Intermedia in Brooklyn. And part of that is the bionic artists and prosthetic legs artists, and for that we are doing a collaboration with Bell Labs, for example, for the technology. So those are, and with the UN. So in that case, we expand the outreach, and the many possibilities of what art can be.
I just want to add something, for being a gallerist, because I'm doing the traditional kind of job. What do you do for your artists? If you represent the artist, for example, you usually, you are always interested to support. You're always interested to probably advise somehow in terms of printing or editions or pricing, evaluating work. Then you are doing the again traditional kind of things that every gallerist does, promoting or donating work to museum, or highlighting the artist, for the proposing the artist to be at the panel at the museum shows, for example, or to participate in the group shows in other galleries or in the different projects. So I think, when it comes to the new tech artists, the ones who are using a new technology, there are just additional questions which are coming to my mind, is about the copyright, is about the the way you sell works, how do you edition them, because it's a digital, sometimes digital artworks. Also, it's a lot of questions from the collectors as well. How do you get the ownership of this work? So this kind of little technical issues, when it comes to the new technologies, the additional questions, additional problems, which the gallerist also has to think about and also discuss it with the artist and help the artist to kind of find a solution.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of different models are developing in terms of how is an artist rewarded for putting their work out into the world. And so far we've been following the model of editioned works that are sold to collectors or museums. But there is another model that we're also looking at, and that is developing, and that sort of, it could be a subscription model, or so that it's more like how music is sold. Music is freely available, and you might pay your Spotify subscription, or you might download a song from iTunes or something. So I think this part of the digital market is still developing. The model, I don't think the models have been completely worked out here yet.
I want to expand on the idea of pricing, or the protection of the artist, the practice. I wanted to say this question until Sanya was here, because she runs a platform called InArt, which is a Russian contemporary art market analytics platform, which helps with pricing, finding the latest trending artists, guide to the contemporary art world there. But when you're all dealing with these brand new technologies or brand new types of art, whether they're ephemeral or using new types of development, how are you working with the artists to determine something like pricing, or how to protect it when it comes to, let's say, VR art? And generally trying to fit a square peg into a round hole when it comes to these emerging technologies in the creative space.
Sorry, could you summarize the question?
So how are you dealing with traditional avenues of pricing, copywriting, protection? We started to talk about things like putting out editions, especially when it comes to these new forms of technologies in creative work.
I don't think I'm the right person for that, because I don't sell work. But it's just, I sell experiences, and you couldn't put a price on that. So
what price do you put on that experience?
And every time you do something, it's a new experience, even if it's the same show, it's going to come out different. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I think there's a question more for you.
Oh my God. Okay. It's difficult. Pricing is always difficult. I think I'm going to generalize them. There are some certain established artists. They have already established market for themselves. So there is obviously different platforms as well which you can use. Like ArtNet and Artsy and all the other platforms which help the collector and help also the other participants on the art market figure out what's going on with the editions, with whether it's unique pieces, how much has been sold. This and the other work, I don't know, for example, once in a New York gallery and in another work in Tokyo, so it's kind of a globalized thing which became very accessible and transparent, which is I'm very thankful for that. The other thing, also if the artist has been at the auction, you also can track the auction prices, so it also kind of helps to understand more or less the pricing model of how you price this and the other thing. The problem comes, I think, when we have a new kind of medium, if like video installation or VR or blockchain or something like that, and then it comes to more kind of a sense of about the concept, about how artist feels about his work. How would he value that? also, you know, how much effort and how much in money was invested also, you know, in order to build these kind of things. Because, for example, again, given the example of a previous show on blockchain, there are some works engineering-wise, you know, was really complicated and very complex things. So it's not cheap to actually even produce that. And also, if you calculate the amount of time and efforts and even years, you know, sometimes spent by the artist or by the group of artists, you know, to make it work, to make it live, you know, to make the work complete. Of course, it's priceless, you know, for me it's priceless because it's a lot of sweat and tears and blood, you know, invested. But yeah, you have to, I guess, take into consideration all different aspects and figure out the amount which is makes sense for everyone, you know. And for me, it's the most important that the price is always stays the same, whether you buy it at the gallery or you buy it with directly with the artist. That the pricing is always transparent, and worldwide we keep the same pricing for each artist. What else? Copyright. Copyright, difficult questions. I host various, I wish to host more actually panels in my location regarding that, because there is a lot of questions when it comes to the video installations, for example, or whether it's available in internet. You know, I've seen lots of digital art which you can purchase, or you don't have to purchase, it's actually for free, and you can download one work at your computer and watch it, you know, and then you see it's on sale somewhere with the gallery, you know, because it's the gallery represents the artist, and then you also experience that it's priced for, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000, and then the big questions when a collector comes and say, oh my God, why shall I pay this amount of money for something which is, yes, it's an edition, but it's also available in the internet? And that's a very good question. That's a tricky one, and I think it's a job of each gallery, not only on my gallery, but we have to kind of work as a team here, as also, you know, artists and galleries together, curators and all art market participants to brainstorm about this copyright problem. So I can only say what I'm doing, and I'm trying to figure out with the artists who I work to discuss that basically the scarcity, you know, is and availability to have a look at the artwork. You know, I think, you know, the exposure of artwork has to be there, because I think it's also adding additional value to the artist and to the artwork if the artwork is exposed worldwide, you know, so it is good to be visible, you know, it's good for the artist to be seen, to be spoken about. But when it comes to the collector who comes and wants to purchase the work, and he knows that, you know, you can basically download it in the internet, then how do you value that work, you know? So it's a tricky question. So probably, you know, you have to be like a museum. You have to show to as many people as possible. You have to open up for the broad audience. You have to promote the artists and the exhibitions, you know, to be more visible. But, you know, when it comes to the purchase of ownership of the work, I think that that has to be some kind of a limit, that it's not available in internet for free, that you cannot just download it or hack it or whatever. Probably here we can use this new technology like blockchain, where you can now track the ownership of the artwork.
Yeah, I definitely want to save some more time for questions. But just before we open it up, I wanted to end out with what to look forward to, whether it's the Faurschou Foundation, CADAF Gallery, Hyphen Hub, what's coming up next, and if you can talk a little bit about the specific works that people are getting excited about, the practitioners. I'd love to kind of give people an anchor to follow with your respective organizations.
Okay, well, we are in the process of doing a few more works with artists that we're working with now to create new artworks. And then we have several of our works are going to be shown. We are working with the Leipzig Museum, and they're doing a sort of semi-permanent installation of works. They're showing the works that we've produced. Paul McCarthy's piece will be shown at Art Basel in Basel coming up next month in the Unlimited section, which is very exciting. And then the Mona Museum has a big festival every year, and they will be showing Paul McCarthy's piece as part of their film festival. And so we have a lot of things are happening and going on, and so yeah.
As I already mentioned, I'm very excited, about our approaching upcoming exhibition of Automat und Mensch. It's in German, it means machine and the man, which will be opening on 29th of May in Zurich, in the gallery. Before the Art Basel, we will be hosting various panel discussions and also art and tech panels with potentially interesting speakers and also artists coming to visit. We, at this show, I'm very excited that we have such a broad of age as well, from 19 to 91. And so many artists agreed to participate at the exhibition. I'm very thankful to all of them. I also wanted to, we don't have time, but I also wanted to mention that actually, the new technology also touches the business not only of an artist, like as an artistic expression, but also as a gallerist. I'm also challenged to use new technology and new ways of things, to kind of maybe crowdfund or for the investment purposes, or if, for example, if we want to commission a new, more expensive work from the artist, that we can use a blockchain as a way, to invest, to attract more investors and be more transparent for them. So I'm very open for collaborations. I'm open for further discussions. So that's my news.
Okay, so we have a few things cooking, and one of them, the first one is, I'm curating this festival in Colombia, the Festival de la Imagen, and so that one is in June, early June. It's more like academic-centric. Then we have an artist that I work with, Kurt Henschlager. He's an Austrian artist based in New York. We are co-producing a piece of his that is sensorial at Mana in Jersey City. That will be at the end of June and running all the way through August. So if you want to keep on top of what we are doing, I would suggest that you find us and like us on Facebook or Instagram, because we post all the things happening. And then we are creating the series of Visions of the Future. There are going to be 3 events this year. And it's, in November, it's going to be focuses on data, big data, and this is a part of a collaboration with CERN in Switzerland. So there's an artist that went there and working is this, the dark matter and data, but it's mixed with techno performance. So it's kind of a science with techno. And then there's the December one, which is the bionic artist with AI, which that one is a collaboration with Bell Labs. Then we have the one in January, which is more of a theatrical performance with Sybil Kempson, which is one of the most relevant avant-garde theater playwrights and producers here in New York. So we are mixing that with a Swedish theatrical company that brings a lot of technology into the performative art. So we are bringing the technology into the collaboration with the theatrical performance. So I was saying that we go in different directions, applying these technologies in many creative fields.